The episode starts with Melek barging in on Serhat's wedding to Yildiz. Everyone's shocked when she announces that she's actually Serhat's wife. Serhat admits it's true, and suddenly both families pull guns on each other. Serhat asks Melek to leave, but she refuses, demanding to know what's going on. Yildiz tells her that she and Serhat are getting married, and Zian accuses Sultan's family of deceiving them, saying their son dishonored his daughter. Feud snaps back that Zian is the last person who should talk about honor and threatens to expose him, leaving his wife stunned. Then Hadshek shouts that Bakir isn't moving. Serhat rushes to help, while Akif's brother panics and tells them to call an ambulance. But Akif coldly says their father is dead. We switch to Nargis comforting Melek, telling her not to care about that fool Yildiz. Yildiz overhears and gets offended, but Melek tells her, "I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to Serhat." She tells Yildiz that marrying someone who doesn't love you is pathetic, calling her prideless and ignorant. Yildiz, furious, grabs a gun from her brother Asher and points it at Melek. Everyone tries to calm her down, but Yildiz screams that she won't let this girl humiliate her in her own house. Melek steps closer, saying, "Go ahead. Kill me. I'm not afraid." Feud signals Asher to act, and he manages to take the gun from his sister. When Asher tries to slap Yildiz, Serhat stops him, warning him that they've gone too far. Sultan then yells that Bakir is dead and orders everyone out of the mansion. When Zian tries to argue, she shuts him down, telling him to respect the dead. Everyone leaves. Serhat follows Melek outside. She hugs him to comfort him. He admits he doesn't feel any sadness for his father's death and tries to explain why he married Yildiz. Melek doesn't want to listen, but he stops her and says she doesn't know the full story. She takes off her ring, gives it to him, and says, "The ring on your hand isn't mine anymore." She calls him a liar. He tries to explain, but she cuts him off, mocking that he was just about to take his new bride into his arms. She turns to her parents, sarcastically saying, "See? They forced him to marry." Then Akif calls Serhat over, and Melek tells him, "Go to your wife," and walks away. At Bakir's funeral, Nargis sees Sultan and remembers the past, how young Sultan was abandoned in front of Nargis's clinic when she was little. Meanwhile, Yildiz is sitting alone, thinking about Melek's harsh words about dignity and pride. Hadshek comes in, upset for her, but Yildiz refuses to eat. Hadshek then confides something shocking. She saw Akif arguing with his father and hugging him so hard that Bakir suffocated. She tells Yildiz that Akif killed him. Later, when Yildiz tries to leave the house, Feud warns her that Sultan won't forgive her if she's seen outside right after the wedding. Taher advises Serhat and his brother to focus on their land and stop fighting. Serhat says that with their father gone, Akif is now the mountain of the family. At the funeral, Serhat sees Melek again. Meanwhile, Hilmi receives a blackmail video that could ruin him and is told that someone powerful wants to meet. He's warned to stay away from the Yildirim family and leave with his wife and daughter immediately. Serhat later tells Melek he only married Yildiz because they threatened to kill Melek if he didn't. She reminds him that they're married too, but he says his family and Yildiz's are bound by blood and revenge. Melek asks if he expects her to just accept seeing her husband marry another woman. Serhat insists he had no choice, and that's why he ran off to Istanbul. Melek tells him she's leaving tomorrow. If he really wants her, he'll find her on the plane, in the seat next to hers. Then she walks away. Yildiz, back at her family's home, tells her sister-in-law that Bakir didn't die naturally and repeats what Hadshek said. Her sister-in-law warns her to stay quiet before it destroys them all. But Yildiz vows to tell Serhat the truth and expose her brother Akif. Meanwhile, Asher meets with some traders who are secretly mining for metals. They ask him to help dig on the Yildirim land, and he assures them that the family won't stop them. After they leave, Yazan tells his son to make sure Serhat doesn't travel, calling Akif weak and useless. He also reveals he's planning something against Melek to make sure she and Serhat never come back. Back at the mansion, Asher's wife calls Akif, warning him that Hadshek saw everything and told Yildiz. Hadshek walks in, terrified, and drops the glasses she's holding. Serhat rushes to help, but Akif stops him, saying coldly, "No one helps the servants here." At the mansion, Sultan sees what's going on while Serhat tells Akif that their father's seat, the family leadership, should be his. Akif says it's not the right time and asks what Serhat plans to do. Serhat tells him he's leaving the next day. He admits he doesn't love Yildiz and that she only married him for her own interests to finish her studies in Istanbul. He confesses that his heart belongs to Melek. Yildiz overhears everything. Akif reassures Serhat that he'll take care of Yildiz and her family and tells him to travel and check on his wife's safety. When Yildiz later tries to go to her room, Sultan stops her and scolds her for leaving the house on the second day of her marriage, and even on the day of the funeral. Sultan tells her to forget about Melek and remember that she's now Serhat's wife. Yildiz says she heard Serhat say he doesn't love her. Sultan warns her not to eavesdrop on anyone in the palace, then tells her, "If you really want to prove you're my son's wife, sit next to me and accept condolences for your father-in-law." Meanwhile, in her room, Hadshek is attacked. Someone grabs her, covers her mouth, and takes her away. Yildiz comes to check on her but finds the room empty. The man drives off with Hadshek in his car, and it turns out the man is Yusuf. Yildiz doesn't see them leave. When she returns, Yildiz finds Hadshek's phone and is startled when Akif appears behind her. She says she was just checking on Hadshek, but Akif tells her Hadshek's fine, that she loves animals and went out to feed them. Yildiz insists on looking for her, but Akif blocks her way, telling her to trust him. He's now the head of the mansion. He snatches Hadshek's phone from her and warns her to mind her own business. Later, while Sultan is accepting condolences, a maid tells her someone wants to speak to her privately. It's Nargis. Sultan asks what she wants. Nargis says she knows Sultan was the one who left the baby outside her clinic years ago. Sultan pretends not to understand, but Nargis tells her not to deny it. Sultan asks what she's after, and Nargis says, "You and your daughter turned a wedding into a funeral." Sultan replies that she knows Nargis took the baby and raised her. Then it's revealed Melek isn't Nargis's biological daughter. Nargis tells Sultan that Melek and Serhat are actually her children. But Sultan insists the girl isn't her daughter and that the two aren't siblings. She tells Nargis, "If you really want to know who her real mother is, I'll tell you, but then you'll go back to your town without Melek." She orders Nargis to leave and never return. As Nargis leaves, Seyfide sees her clutching her stomach and confronts her, shouting, "You're not Melek's mother." She chases after her, crying, "You stole my daughter from me." Sultan appears, calling Seyfide crazy, and throws her out of the house. Seyfide insists Sultan knows who kidnapped her child, but Sultan ignores her, tosses her things outside, and bans her from coming back. Serhat sees this and blames his mother for throwing out an innocent woman. Sultan yells at him, reminding him that he never visited them for years, so he doesn't know who's innocent. She also reminds him that he got married without their consent. Serhat snaps back that he's not a child who needs permission, nor a victim for them to control. Sultan tells him they didn't force him to come, but he has two choices: either take his father's place and lead the family, or go back to Istanbul. If he goes, he'll just be another guest in the mansion, no power, no say. Then we cut to Hilmi meeting with Dalian, who turns out to be Yıldız's cousin. Dalian tells him he knows Hilmi used to be an officer in their town, and warns that the families share blood ties. The marriage had to happen, but now things are dangerous. If Hilmi and his family don't leave soon, they'll be in serious trouble. After Hilmi leaves, we see Ziyan talking with Dalian. It turns out this was all part of Ziyan's plan to scare Hilmi into leaving town. Ziyan then tells Dalian that Asher will handle Serhat and make sure he doesn't travel. Dalian worries because Asher is reckless and might kill him, but Ziyan assures him Asher won't go that far. In another scene, Melek is at the market, admiring a turquoise necklace. The shopkeeper tells her the stone has a story. It's said to shine brightest in the heart of a woman who's been deeply hurt. Melek is touched by the story, but interestingly, Yıldız is also seen wearing the same necklace. The shopkeeper refuses to take money from Melek, saying he knows she's Serhat's wife and that no one in the market would ever charge her. But Melek refuses the gift, leaves the necklace, and walks away. Meanwhile, Hilmi goes to check out a house, but the caretaker tells him the owners don't want to rent it. Hilmi insists, and the man lets him in. Inside, memories hit him. He remembers coming home as a young man and finding a baby there with Nargis. She told him she found the baby outside the clinic where she worked and begged him to let her keep the child. He wanted to report it, but she pleaded with him, saying she'd hide the girl until she was older. Just then, Nargis appears in the present and tells him she knew he'd come back. Hilmi admits they made a mistake not telling Melek the truth. Nargis promises no one will find out and says she's sure Serhat will leave with them for Istanbul tomorrow. Then, Akif brings Yusuf to a secluded spot with Hadshek. Yusuf looks terrified. Akif tells him not to worry. He just wants to scare her, not hurt her. Yusuf helps Hadshek out of the car, and she begs Akif not to kill her. Akif says he won't, but warns her to keep quiet and pretend she saw nothing. Hadshek, trembling, begs Yusuf to help her, but Akif shoves her hard and she falls to the ground. Yusuf tells Akif she shouldn't have talked. Akif says the dead don't speak, and that's better. He orders Yusuf to gather all the goons the day after Serhat leaves, so they'll come bow at his feet. That night Serhat visits Melek and runs into Hilmi. He scolds Hilmi, reminding him that when Serhat asked him to marry Melek, Hilmi said, "If you've got problems in your town, stay away from us." Serhat explains he was forced into the wedding. His family pressured him to marry Yildiz to save her from death, and he admits he loves Melek. Melek tells him his family doesn't hate him. She says he disappointed them. Serhat replies she's lucky to have a family who cares, and he gives her a box. Melek is surprised when she opens it. It's the same turquoise necklace she left in the market. Serhat says the whole clan stands together. Melek notices he's talking about family life and jokes. "You like this life here?" He reminds her again, if she really wants him, meet him on the plane tomorrow, in the seat next to hers. Back at the palace, Yildiz sees Serhat return and notices the necklace on her neck. Serhat grabs her and asks about it. Yildiz tells him the shop story, same one the seller told Melek, and says her mother gave it to her on their wedding day. She begs him to take her to Istanbul with him. Serhat says they have different lives and it won't work. He can't make her his wife in Istanbul. She insists their lives are one and the same, and that she only studied to secondary school and wanted to continue with him. He refuses and asks whether she wants to separate her life and stay here or go to Istanbul as a second wife. He's exhausted and asks her to leave him alone. He walks away. Yildiz calls after him and calls him a coward for trying to run. She admits they used to mock Akif as useless, but after what he did, he proved he's a man, and that shocks Serhat. He asks what she means by what your brother did, but Yildiz stays silent and goes to her room. Melek falls asleep and dreams of a boy calling for her help. As she reaches to go to him, Sifide appears behind her. Melek wakes up. Standing at the window, she sees Sifide outside. Sifide comes in, sits with her, and places her hand on Melek's face. She tells Melek people call her Crazy Sifide, and others call her the fortune teller. She says the fortune teller reads things through water and the lake. When Sifide sees a tattoo on Melek's leg, she remembers making that same tattoo when Melek was a child and realizes Melek is her daughter. Melek is shocked. Sifide tells her she doesn't want Melek to know who her real parents are right away. Melek yells that Sifide is crazy. Sifide insists Nargis is not her real mother and offers to show the truth. If Melek wants to know, come with her. Later, Yazan is with his wife. Sifide asks what she meant when she told him, "You're the last person who should talk about honor." Yazan gets nervous, shouts that Sifide is crazy, and leaves. Hami tells Nargis about what happened with Dalian and how he was being threatened. Nargis worries about Melek and goes to find her to take her away and leave, but Melek is nowhere. Back with Sifide and Melek, Sifide says Melek will find her answers and the lake will tell her who her real mother is, and that Melek's dreams were real. She says Serhat is meant for Melek, and even if Melek hasn't seen him in a dream, she will meet him. But first she must pay the price. Melek asks what the price is. Cut to Serhat saying goodbye to his family. He's leaving. Yildiz watches him go and says goodbye to Akif. Akif tells Serhat to take care of his family and reminds him their father left a doctor to treat people in Istanbul, and that Akif will be responsible here. He promises to look after Yildiz. Melek is taken to a place where she finds Hadshek alive. Melek asks who the girl is. Sifide says Hadshek will tell part of the truth. Melek insists they should take Hadshek to the hospital. Sifide asks Melek to be patient and tells her to let Serhat come to the hospital alone and say nothing to anyone. Yusuf drives Serhat to the airport, and Serhat remembers Melek's words that she'll wait on the plane next to him. Nargis calls Serhat to say Melek can't be found. Serhat panics and orders his men not to move from the hotel until they find her. At the same time, Melek calls Serhat and asks him to come to the hospital alone. Yusuf tells Serhat to return to the palace. Serhat grabs a car and drives off. Asher's men are watching him and call Asher, telling him Serhat didn't go to the airport. They ask if they should kidnap Serhat. Asher says find out where he's headed first, then kidnap him. Melek sends a message to her sister Yildiz, warning that Asher plans to kidnap Serhat. Sure enough, Serhat arrives at the hospital and meets Melek. He's taken to Hatshep's room. Hatshep speaks to him, and his words frighten him so much he runs out. He tells Melek to go back to the hotel and refuses to take her with him. Melek meets Sifide and asks what Hatshep told Serhat. Sifide answers that Serhat will reveal the truth when he chooses to. Melek asks Sifide about life and identity. Sifide tells a sad story about a woman from the slums who used to cry and claim her child was stolen. People called her crazy and fed her, but no one asked her story. Melek asks if that woman is her real mother. Meanwhile, Serhat is attacked by a group of men. He resists, but they overpower him and take him to a camp. They tie him up and laugh, telling him he won't travel. Asher confronts him, telling Serhat this is his land and his chance to be a doctor here, to open a big hospital. Serhat says he hates this town and wants to go back to Istanbul. Asher tells him he's married to Melek and to Asher's sister, and orders him back to the mansion by force, raising a gun. Serhat steps toward him and says, "You're a real man. If your brother were weak, he'd be scared." Things escalate. Asher threatens to shoot Serhat in the hand and ruin his career if he tries to leave or return to Istanbul. At the same time, Yildiz arrives and begs Asher to let Serhat go. She calls out that he'll never find a wife like her sister, and Asher fires a shot into Serhat's hand. Serhat and Yildiz leave. She tells him to go to the hospital, but he refuses, saying he must return to the palace. He wants to call Melek to make sure she's safe. Melek goes to the lake, as Sifide asked. Sifide says the lake will reveal the truth about who Melek's mother is. Melek imagines entering a house, calling for her mother, and seeing a girl she holds hands with. Back at Asher's place, Akif gathers all the goons and declares himself their leader, saying his father appointed him as Halef. Sultan is unhappy, some object, but Akif silences anyone who disagrees. Everyone starts kissing Serhat's hand to show loyalty. Yusuf stands in front of Serhat and announces he was hired to protect the late Bikr. He raises a gun at Serhat, shocking everyone. Serhat stands his ground, unflinching.